Travis Wayne Goodsell. This succession crisis is only known to ex-Mormons. Mormons refuse to acknowledge it because it means that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is potentially not true. It's in Wikipedia. The church has still managed to tamper with it. The Wikipedia article presents theoretical successors, and all of it misses the one passage in the Doctrine and Covenants which Joseph Smith had put in long before he was assassinated. Section 107, and it was put in the 1835 edition of the Doctrine and Covenants, so everybody knew of it, but yet people still missed it. Verse 22, of the Melchizedek priesthood. And so everybody knows this, that it's the umbrella of the various quorums within the priesthood. 3 presiding high priests, chosen by the body. That's pretty clear. Now you know where the vote part came from in the sustaining vote, where members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints don't actually vote. It's a pretty sad tale, to say the least, that the church has been fooling Mormons this whole time. And so all 3 are supposed to be voted on by the whole priesthood quorum. And so when Joseph Smith died, it's now been labeled a succession crisis because nobody did it right. Nobody did it in accordance with Revelation. And so there are other branch-offs from Joseph Smith that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does not want you to know about. They prefer that you consider all of them apostates and evil and corors of the devil, etc. Unfaithful, doubters, lazy learners. But among them were Sidney Rigdon. He kept the name of the church, Church of Christ. His organization is still around today. And then James Strang, he was assassinated because John C. Bennett joined up and convinced him to start polygamy, and the group said, hell no. And then he just was assassinated. Nobody knows who. And then Alpheus Cutler was a member of the 12 High Council, which is the administration that Joseph Smith had, not the Quorum of 12 of Brigham. And then Alpheus was interesting because he was waiting for a sign in the heavens. As he said, Joseph Smith told him to wait for a sign in the heavens before restoring the church. once I figured all that out, that made a lot more sense to me. As I'm going, oh, okay, we got the wrong sign, but that's interesting. His is the only one I can solidify a claim from Joseph. You see, Brigham Young claimed Joseph gave him authority in secret, and then James Strang likewise claimed Joseph Smith gave him authority in secret. I mean, again, 107:22 in the Doctrine and Covenants from 1835, and nobody wanted to adhere to it because that would mean their claim is gone. They'd have to hope that they'd be voted on, and they might not get voted on. Oh no. And so, yeah, everybody made claims, and their organization justified the changes due to their claim. You know, Brigham Young. Oh, well, succession is from the president of the Quorum of the 12. Oh, I wonder where he got that from. So, what also needs to be understood is that if succession means the mantle of authority, and there is no successor that is legitimate, all Mormons know exactly what that means, and they refuse to accept it. It means the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints' prophets have no authority, which means they're not getting revelation from the Christ, and that explains why they believe that Jesus, created by Constantine way back in the Nicene Creed, I refer you to the first vision, are pulling a fast one on Mormons. As Nelson, a medical doctor, is outright murdering Mormons. And so that's why I've somewhat got an attitude, if you tell that I'm kind of got an attitude. Is because this coronavirus was purposely spread and escalated in Utah because of me. Last year, at the beginning before the coronavirus was pretty much in the United States, it was aware that it was potentially here, but it was not here in Utah, at least not known to be in Utah yet. The cruise ship was still docked at Japan, and I had filed a lawsuit against the church, but Judge First, who was fired, was assigned to me on her way out, and refused to do anything. She was upset that she got fired, probably scared for her life, that if she didn't dismiss my case, that she would be assassinated, as that was my claim in my lawsuit, that I had evidence that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints paid for and ordered my assassination. And so she refused to do anything, and so I didn't know how to serve the defense until I finally found the waiver of summons option, and proceeded with that, and they got it in the mail 2 days later, and then 2 more days after that the Mormon, the Utah, on the cruise ship was sent directly to the Intermountain Medical Center. Not the University of Utah, where they do research, the Intermountain Medical Center. Now, why there? Because they knew where I lived. They knew that I took the bus to get to the Midvale Trax Center, which is right there at the Intermountain Medical Center. That would take me downtown to file the various documents for the court. They used the virus as a weapon. Governor Herbert was all set, ready to go. He was boasting about it. He got his organizations all set, ready to handle it when it was announced. Had hired or put Cox in charge, and then all of a sudden I file my lawsuit, or serve them, and then Governor Herbert just failed to do what he had set up to do. Almost as if somebody had told him not to do it. And sure enough, we can now see it all this time later, as the church on the 11th, which was Monday, put out a temple thing on how the temples, the major points of when the temples were shut down and when they reopened, giving the date of July when they fully reopened again. And we're worse with the coronavirus than we were when the church shut down. And they're fully open. Why did they shut down in the first place? If it was to protect Mormons from the virus, then why are they fully opened when the virus is worse? Nelson's a medical doctor. He knows exactly what needs to be done during an outbreak of a virus. And instead, he's keeping the church open. So under the Brigham Young Wikipedia page, the church lies. It says Brigham Young is the second president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Joseph's church was the Church of Christ. So Brigham Young can't be the second president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints if there was no Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints prior to Brigham Young. He's the first. He didn't follow Section 107, verse 22. He's the first president. He technically was king of Deseret, but then the United States designated the area as the Utah Territory and allowed him to be governor, but he was still committing acts of terrorism, making threats to the government of the United States, and so he was deposed from governor, and so Brigham Young retaliated and threatened all the government officers put in by the United States to leave the state of, or the territory of Utah. And so there's a long list of governors in those early days, many judges gone in those early days. This is the history the church does not want you to know about. They don't teach us when we grow up in church, and seminary, and institute. They claim that They were persecuted for their religion and polygamy, which had always been illegal. Oh, but Joseph Smith was secretly practicing it. So many secrets they claim. And it's not the doctrine. Because the doctrine from the Book of Mormon is that those who keep secrets are evil. And so Joseph Smith tells everybody the right doctrine with the Book of Mormon, but is not practicing any of it? Seriously? No, it was Brigham Young who was not practicing any of it. Wanted nothing to do with it, but used the Book of Mormon to deceive people into following him. And so, another thing that the church won't tell us is that the United States eventually shut down the church. Disincorporated it. No longer existed as an official entity on the records. It's destroyed. And so, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, gone, was then reincorporated under Heber J. Grant in 1923. The articles of incorporation are available. They're online. You even request them through Utah's archives. Freedom of Information Act. But it's not a succession because the United States shut it down. You can't succeed something that ceased to exist. You can restore it, but they don't call it a restoration of Brigham Young's church. They still claim it's Jesus of Constantine that they're restoring. And they even get it wrong when they say that Jesus established his church. Jesus didn't establish anything. He was restoring the kingdom of David. Remember? And it's just, they just lie. And if it wasn't for their crimes and murders that they're trying to get away with, and they were legitimately trying to be righteous leaders, I can understand them just being ignorant on their understanding of Scripture. But no, they blatantly are lying to us. And so what Nelson is now doing is what's called hinge pointing. Instead of disincorporating the church and reincorporating into a whole new church, he's instead just making the metamorphical transition into a full evangelical Christian. And you can't do that. I wrote my letter to Nelson, did the video of it, in which I warned him he will destroy the church that he's trying to hinge point to. Because of the principle of the Bible, you can't put new wine in old bottles. Wineskins, technically. But, you know, they want me dead. How dare I molest and make afraid? And so, it's frustrating to witness Mormons who cower, who are able to hide behind the internet and listen to my videos, but never be known that they're listening. because there's the quote. Typically attributed to Edmund Burke, but Reuters is fact-checking them. Commercial ads. David Bromwich, Sterling Professor of English at Yale. Okay. So, who did say it? One of the most notable attributions of Kennedy. So tell us who did. Don't just tell us who didn't. Okay, here we go. Quote verifier mentioned that in 1867, British philosopher John Stuart Mill made an inaugural address at the University of St. Andrews with a similar but not identical quote, "Bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing." The church is getting away with their ends because Mormons are letting them. Ex-Mormons are letting them. Those who aren't Mormon are letting them. They're committing crimes, guys. Tithing. I told you. I did the video. Report to the FBI tip line. It's a protection racket. It's not a membership fee. It's not a donation. It's a protection racket. We all call it tithing or burning insurance, fire insurance, because of the latter days. Those who are full tithe payers shall be protected from the burning. It's a protection racket. It's what criminal organizations do. They extort from people money. And so everybody should be notifying the FBI. If good men are going to stop corruption, they must tip the government. Now, yes, the government's corrupt too, because people didn't do this throughout America's history. It slowly got infiltrated and corrupted. But we have witnessed when enough people scream out and demand justice, those in authority cave. They have no choice, because we, the people, demand it. And so even if you're not Mormon, you've been approached by the missionaries. They've tried to get you to recruit into the church and thus pay tithing. If you've gotten to the point where they want to do a baptismal interview, they've talked to you about tithing and said that you're going to need to pay a full tithe. It's 10%, and they'll go over the little thing. That's the protection racket mixed with a pyramid scam. Familiar with those? The pyramid scam people call themselves multi-level marketing. It's all a scam. It's illegal. It's a crime. You need to report it. So those missionaries, you need to report. Hey, I was approached by missionaries of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who tried to recruit me to pay the church money. This is an extortion racket, protection racket. And so everybody should be reporting on the church. It's not Joseph's church. It's not Jesus' church. It's just a fraud.